Welcome to the Leading Joyfully community. Conversations with great leaders about the outcomes they achieve, the inspiration fostered, the challenges they face, and the joy, both expected and unexpected, that's discovered along the way of leading. This podcast is sponsored by Krile Communications, where we leave it better every day by harnessing communication and creativity to connect our community. Learn more at KrileCommunications.com. Welcome back to Leading Joyfully. Today we have with us Debbie Feldman. She's CEO and president of Dayton Children's Hospital, where she's been since 2012. She's led significant and transformational change for the hospital, including campus revitalization, expanding specialty services, recruiting top pediatric talent, and integrating advanced technology. She's strengthened patient and family experiences and access to care across the region through her work. Prior to that, she worked with Montgomery County and spent 30 years actually, in public service, culminating in 15 years as the county administrator. In that role, she also led transformational change for the homeless, youth that are out of school, economic development, and critical community health access. She serves on the boards of Miami University, Dayton Development Coalition, Preschool Promise, the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, Children's Hospital Association, the Ohio Hospital Association, and the Ohio Children's Hospital Association, which is where we met. She's a YWCA Woman of Influence, a Dayton Daily News Person of the Year, and she's won the National Conference of Community Justice Humanitarian Award and the Ohio Hospital Association's Lifetime Achievement Award. Please help me welcome Debbie Feldman.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us today. I'm so excited to talk with you and learn from you. You are embarking on a new phase of life because you're getting ready to retire. So I have a question for you to start. As you look back on your leadership journey over these last several years, what is something that you are really proud of as a leader?
You know, it's always hard when someone asks you, what's that one thing? But I think what I'm most proud of is that I've been able to identify challenges facing the community or our families, and I've been able to put solutions in place. They don't always work 100%. They don't always solve a whole problem, but I have been in this incredible role of having the ability to use resources, whether they are governmental or hospital, to actually put change in place. And so that is hard work. Community change is difficult, but having had that opportunity is really an incredible blessing. And I look back on the multiple ways and touch points that I've had, and I feel really grateful.
How did you rally people around these solutions and ideas? How do you do that? Because you do have a really unique way of doing that. I've watched it happen. How do you do that?
Well, first of all, you have to really believe in whatever you're talking about, right? It has to be authentic. It can't just be words. It has to really come from a deep sense of commitment and value and belief in what you're talking about. And then you have to show them a path forward. Some of these issues are complex, they're complicated, but generally, if you step back, if you can find that path forward, and then you can communicate to people what it is, and that there is potential for improvement at the end of that, most people will align with you, right? So it's getting them, first of all, setting the goal, really spending time having people rally around that or believe in that goal, and then setting a path that actually feels doable, that feels not simple, but not so complex, so overwhelming that you can't get to go.
I think that's really insightful. I've seen that play out in some of the healthcare challenges that we've worked on together. Mental health and behavioral health for kids, that's a big, hairy beast, right? And so we're chipping away. We're trying to kind of chip away at it because that big solution is so big, it's almost paralyzing.
Right. One of my early mentors, who was the incredible man, he had been the CEO of the Huffy Corporation, Fred Smith, and really devoted his retirement years to community change and impact. And he called it termite work, which is you take little bites at a time, right? And eventually you can topple the entire house. And so it's really recognizing that you can't go from, 0 to 100. You have to take incremental steps as long as you know that where you're going and you don't sort of get lost in those interim steps.
When you are on that journey that is so long and you're trudging through, how do you stay motivated? And how do you motivate others too?
Well, again, you stay motivated by the fact that you're actually trying to make something really important happen. You really have to keep the goal, the vision, whatever it is, whether it's, addressing homelessness in the community or ensuring that families have access to the right health care. You just have to keep reminding yourself and the people around you what you're trying to accomplish. It's so easy to get lost in all of the detail. That leader's role is to always keep your eye on the prize. What are you working towards? Where are you going? And to celebrate interim steps. You don't get, again, from 0 to 100 at one time, but you can get to 25 and 50 and 75, right? So celebrating those interim steps along the way is really important, but that the leader has to constantly be communicating where you're going and why you're going there. The why, right? The Simon Sinek why. You can get so lost in the how that you lose the why.
Along your leadership journey, has there been a leader that you have experienced that has helped you know who you don't want to be as a leader? And how did that show up for you?
Yeah, I've experienced two kinds of leaders that I don't want to be. One who simply doesn't treat people the way they should be treated, right? I'm a strong believer is you meet the same people on the way down that you met on the way up. And so if you don't treat each individual as a human being and as somebody who has value, then you eventually will hit a dead end. People will not be with you. And there will always, as a leader, there will always be bad times. There will always be times that things aren't working out. And if you haven't treated people with the grace that they deserve, they're not going to be with you. They're going to jump on that bandwagon, that whatever's coming at you, and they're going to jump right on it. And you're going to look around and no one's going to be with you. So there's that kind of leader. And then there's a leader who doesn't set direction and doesn't help people believe that they are headed in for something better, that doesn't make people feel inspired to come to work. They just are here. Those kinds of leaders, to me, what they result in is sort of mediocrity, that, organizations that don't move forward. And when you're in it, good people, great people are not attracted to those kinds of organizations. They want to be in an organization that is, whether it's a business, a hospital, a local government, that has aspirations to be better, that is always looking for the next thing. Those are the kind of people you want to work for you. And when you have a leader who doesn't know what that is, or is lost, or doesn't seem to have the motivation to do that, then the organization is going to flounder.
Yeah, that is so true. You talked about hard times. We kind of went through together the time of COVID, and we were almost on Zoom calls I felt like every day, talking about what do we do for the patients, what do we do for the families, what do we do for laws that needed to be put into place. That was a grueling time. When you're in the midst of those grueling times, how do you maintain joy as a leader?
Yeah. I have been blessed with a great ability to what I call compartmentalize. And I think it's what has really helped me be able to not let those times dominate me. So when I'm in those difficult times, first and foremost, I have an incredible family. My husband, my children have always been just great supporters of me. I've been, my extended family. So sort of taking myself physically out of the environment that is really driving me down and putting myself in an entirely different place for a while. I'm a voracious reader. So, coming home, reading a really good book, or I love a good TV show. No question about it. So, just trying to take my mind off of things for a while and not to dwell, because it's there's always another day. There's always another way, another day. And if we dwell in the moment problem, you're going to get dragged down. And COVID, of course, was an extraordinarily difficult time period. And so having colleagues that you really like and you like spending time with, because we spent a lot of time with each other, and frankly, having a sense of humor. Laughing is probably the best antidote to any difficult time. And so, finding humor in whatever the moment is, maybe you can't find it in that exact moment, but at some point you can. So really holding on to humor is, I think, something that's really, really important. But you really have to be able to compartmentalize, to put things in their perspective. Very, very, very few things are disastrous. I mean, there are some disasters, and COVID was awful. Not being, it felt at the time like everything we knew as we knew it was over. But even in that period of time, we found connections with each other. We just found them to be different ways. We learned new approaches to how we did our work. We found ways around it because that's who we are as people. We are always going to find another way. But COVID was the challenge. I don't think there's a leader out there that would say it wasn't the biggest challenge of their career.
Especially in healthcare. So you talked about your family. How do you show up differently as a leader, or maybe it's the same, with your family?
No, I would say it is not. Well, on some levels it's the same and on some levels it's different. I definitely am very, very present with them. But I think if they were here, they would tell you that sometimes they wonder, how is it that I run these incredible organizations? Because they think I'm a little scattered at home. I'm a little bit more forgetful. I'm a little bit less organized. They shake their heads sometimes and, say, who is this person here versus at work? So I would say that I'm not nearly as, they don't see me quite as together, as maybe the people at work do. So I do, forget things. I do make mistakes, and they're all there to pick up the pieces. And frankly, they like to laugh at me a lot. They like to have a little fun, poking fun at me, and which is fine. They're great. But yeah, I would say I definitely show up very differently at home than I do at work. They say I use all my brain power at work, but I don't think that's true.
I think that my family would say the same about me. Like, how does mom do this every day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They wonder a lot.
You had mentioned earlier that you had a mentor that talked about, termite work. Can you talk about the mentors in your life and how they impacted your leadership, how you show up as a leader?
Sure. I think certainly you can't talk about how I show up as a leader without at least mentioning my parents, who were the most supportive people that ever lived. They thought their two daughters were incredible, people that, we could really do no wrong. But they were very, very, I grew up in Washington, D.C. in the 60s and 70s. And my parents were strong warriors for civil rights and for anything that had to do with people who had been marginalized. They moved to Virginia in a period of time where African Americans did not have full rights. They didn't have the right to vote in many cases, and they had moved from the North, and they were very active in liberal politics at the time. And so that's really the world I grew up in. I grew up in the world of, my parents were on the Mall when Martin Luther King made his speech. One of my early memories is waiting in line to see John Kennedy's casket in the Capitol. My parents always had a cause. And so that really, I think, instilled in me my desire to make a difference. So that was sort of kind of where it set me as, I think, on the path that I wanted to be on. But in terms of being a leader, there were a few people I think that really shaped me. My first boss at the county was I always say to people when they talk about diversity, oftentimes you wouldn't think of this person, but I would tell you that he's a perfect example of why we can never classify or categorize a person. So my first boss was named Claude Malone. He was a retired colonel in the Air Force from Oxford, Mississippi. And in every way, externally, he fit that stereotype. But he was one of the most inclusive leaders I have ever known. And he came into county government in a time when it was very political, very driven by patronage, and he totally reshaped it in a period of 5 or 6 years into a professionally run government, and brought together a team of some of the most diverse people I've ever worked with. So one of the things that Claude was able to do, and I think every leader tries to do this, not all are successful, is he could identify talent even when that person didn't have the professional qualifications that you would think they would need. He could see something in them. And he put together a group of women, men, white, black, immigrant, that did an incredible job. He molded a team that worked together, even though we came from very diverse backgrounds. I was 26 years old and had my first child and was really not sure I even wanted to come back to county. It had been such a political organization. Excuse me. And not one that I felt really I wanted to be part of. He called me up and he said, "I want you to be our human resources director." I said, "I know absolutely nothing about human resources." My master's degree was in public finance. And he said, "I think you can do it. I know you can do it. Come and work with me." And I did. And he changed the whole trajectory of my career. So Claude's ability to identify talent and then to give talent confidence. He had a big sign in the front of his desk and it said, "No dumping." And what he meant was, don't come to me with your problems, come to me with your solutions. So he instilled great confidence in the people that worked for him that we could do the job. So Claude had a huge influence. Another individual, sort of my next boss at the county, was an amazing man, Don Vermillion. But what I learned from Don, which I've been working on, how many years later? 35 years later, and I'm still working on it, is he was the best listener I've ever known. Don had the ability, first of all, to truly do what we all say we should do, which is right. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should listen more and talk more.
Yep.
Don really did that. But not only did he do it, he made you feel like he was really hearing you in a way that most people don't do. Most people, while they're listening to you, are already going on to what they're going to say to respond to you. But Don had this uncanny ability to really make you feel that you were heard. And so I've been practicing that the rest of my career, and I will never be as good as Don. But I do think of Don a lot when I'm in a conversation in which I feel the need to speak, to step back and say, listen first, speak next. So I would say those were 2 of my more early but influential mentors.
So my last question for you before we go into our little rapid fire session at the end, getting ready to retire, what do you hope people say about you and the work that you have done in your career after you are no longer sitting at that desk?
I think there's really only one thing that any of us can hope is said about us, and that is we made a difference. Mm-hmm. And I hope that's what they say about me.
Wow. I know they will, because I would say that about you for sure.
Thank
You've
you.
made a difference for me.
I appreciate that very much. It's very difficult to walk away, but like I think there's a time for everything. And I feel like this is the time for me to really see what else is out there in this new world of retirement.
Right. It's a new journey, right? Just a new
It's a
journey.
new journey. It's not the end. It's just a new journey.
That's right. That's right. Well, let me say congratulations on your pending
Thank you.
retirement. And we'll
Thank
end
you.
with our rapid fire questions here.
Okay.
So what is your favorite word or phrase?
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be all right. What's your guilty pleasure?
Watching a really good TV show and just, absolutely sitting there for hours and just watching,
What's your current one that you're enjoying?
We just finished Hacks.
Oh.
And it was fantastic.
Okay, good.
Oh my gosh. Just a beautiful character study of a boomer like me and a young person and that friendship between two women. It was just beautiful. I loved it.
Okay, I will check that one out. That sounds like one I would like. What's something that you do every morning?
Every morning, my alarm goes off. I reach over, grab my phone, check my email, check my texts. And I don't know if I'll still be doing that after I retire, but it's been pretty much the same routine every morning for as long as I can remember.
When you were 6 years old, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I really wasn't ever a person who had a specific plan. So I didn't have it.
What is one word that you hope your employees use to describe you?
Accessible.
That's a good one. What is something you're grateful for today?
I'm grateful for the opportunity that I got up, that I'm healthy, and that I have the opportunity to have a great day. That my health, I think every day when we wake up, we need to, if we are blessed to have our health, to wake up and say, I'm healthy and I can have a great day if I want to. It's in my control. So I'm grateful every day just to wake up and be healthy.
That's wonderful. What brings you great joy?
My children and my grandchildren. No question.
You're going to get a little more time with them.
Children are getting edged out by my grandchildren right now, but there is nothing that gives me greater joy than when my 5-year-old granddaughter looks at me and says, "You're my best friend, Nana."
Yes, that is beautiful.
It doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Debbie, for doing this today and being willing to talk with us and share your journey. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for asking, and have a great day.
You too. So for today's notes in the margins for my conversation with Debbie, I have a few key nuggets that I took away. The first was the fact that in order to get people to go forward toward a big goal, you really have to show them the path forward in order for them to stay motivated and stay on track with you. The second I loved was when she talked about her mentor calling things termite work, where you take things one tiny little bite at a time, and at the end of the day, you can topple that mountain and reach that goal with just those tiny little bites. The third was to not get so lost in the how that you lose your why. That was a conversation about how you stay motivated in really hard times. And I think that that is so important for us as leaders to do, because if we don't have our why straight, how can we expect others to follow us? And lastly, I love the sign, no dumping. I think I might get one of those and put it on my desk. Don't come to me with problems, come to me with potential solutions, and we can work on that together. So that's it for me for today's Notes in the Margins. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being here today. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our newsletter at leadingjoyfullypodcast.com. We are grateful that you are part of the Leading Joyfully community.